Unitarian Universalist Church in Kent. I am Reverend Stephen, your minister. I'm back. Yeah. It's good to be together with you again. Thank you for joining us this morning as we gather once again, both in person and on Zoom, a spiritual community that seeks to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, work for justice, and grow together in community. Once again, welcome. Now let's take a moment to breathe and to be fully present to this time. As we breathe, let's be mindful of how we are entering into community once again, and let's invite the Spirit to be present among us and to open our hearts to life. Come, let us worship together.
Deliver us to evil, that we may heal the land, by bringing every gift we have, our hearts and minds and hands. Deliver us to evil, it's ours to overcome, till every heart has cause for joy, and every soul a home. Deliver us to evil, equip us for the task, and make a heaven there instead, that all things may be well. Deliver us to evil, it's ours to overcome, till every heart has cause for joy, and peace for everyone. Deliver us to evil, that we may go to hell, and make a heaven there instead, that all things may be well. Deliver us to evil, it's ours to overcome, till everyone is safe and sound, and peace becomes our home.
When my son was 4 years old, we were riding in the car, and he spotted a motorcyclist who was not wearing a helmet. He said, "That man is making a bad choice." Not, "What a dummy." Not, "What a stupid thing to do." Not, "That man is a bad person." No, he said, "That man is making a bad choice." He was parroting what he heard frequently at his preschool. When children did not do the right thing, they were told they were making a bad choice. This might seem like a semantic thing, but there is so much packed in that word choice. Ideas about sin and evil, what it means to be good or bad. Liberal religion is often accused of avoiding topics like evil and sin, of not acknowledging them, and instead focusing on the good news of the healing power of love and compassion. Some people have even argued that our turning away from acknowledging brokenness in the world and focusing on love might resonate with our mostly white and mostly economically comfortable UU congregations, but be a turnoff for people who experience a harsher version of reality. Today, we will reflect on evil. What do we mean when we use the word evil? Where does evil come from? Why don't we talk about it very often in Unitarian Universalist churches? And how does Unitarian Universalism empower us to confront and challenge evil in the world? Today, we ponder these questions. I'd like to call Benny forward to help us with our chalice lighting today. Thank you. As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice to unite us in worship, to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth within and among us, and to be a light to guide us on our journey as a community toward freedom. Thank you, Benny, for lighting our shared chalice. And if you're on Zoom, I invite you to light your home chalice. Please join me in the words of Covenant by James Villa Blake. There is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Midst of our busy lives, the many things demanding time and attention and energy, one of the best gifts we can give ourselves is to care for our spiritual lives. Each week as we gather, we create a time of shared stillness for prayer, reflection, for gratitude, meditation, or to simply be, so that in order we have the time, we can remember who we truly are, we can reflect on life, and we can reconnect with the sacred mystery that is the heart of life itself. So I invite us now to enter into stillness for a time and to find that place of silence within us where love lives and calls us into fullness of life. I invite you to return. Part of our experience as human beings is struggle and loss. As a community of compassion and care, we take time to share the sorrows, struggles, and losses that are in our hearts right now. So if you're on Zoom, this is the time to use the chat box to share any sorrows you may have. Our flowers this morning were given by Jack Graham and Marianne Stevens in loving memory of their granddaughter, Chelsea. We hold them in our hearts as they grieve. Lori asks our prayers for her mother, Nancy, who is struggling. We're holding her in our hearts. Raven would like to request prayers for my cousin Cecilia Guerrero Rice, who has been diagnosed with cancer and starts radiation treatment on Tuesday. We send prayers and wishes for healing. If there's anyone in your heart right now you know is sick or struggling or has experienced a loss, you're welcome to speak their names out loud. Amber Weeby shares that she is thinking of Sally Burnell, who was diagnosed with cancer and will be getting surgery soon. We send our love and wishes for healing to Sally on this life journey. Would you enter with me now into the spirit of prayer? These words have been adapted from the Reverend Sarah Lawal. Spirit of life and love, may we hear the cries of the world. May we be vessels of comfort and compassion. May we be vessels of hope and healing for those we've named this morning, those we hold in our hearts and minds, those in the world in need of our care and compassion. May we hear the voice within calling us to ask what's possible, to walk to the edge, to take a leap of faith into possibility and fullness of life, and dance with the infinite for a while. May we hear each other's voices of love and encouragement, and may we dare to offer that love and encouragement in return, helping each other become our most loving and full selves, and may love prevail. Life also brings joy, wonder, and awe. We've experienced moments this week that have lifted our spirits and helped them to soar. Once again, for our guests on Zoom, please use the chat box to share any joys you may have with us. Kathy shares that parents will be moving into assisted living this week, which will be a much better situation for them. And we send wishes for traveling mercies to Kathy during this time as she assists them. And it is a joy to welcome one of our former ministers to the congregation this morning. Julianne Silberman-Bunn is with us. Yay. And one of our members is particularly happy to see Julianne with us. And welcome. Is this your first visit to Hobbs Hall? Here it is. Well, be sure to look around after service, and maybe someone, if not myself, will give you a guided tour. Okay. Now, with gratitude for these and every blessing we receive in life, for the gift of life itself, for the companionship of each other on life's journey, for the beauty of our world, and for this day of possibility, let us raise our hearts in gladness and together say, Amen.
Today we are talking about a super hard topic to understand. And something that all cultures do and have done is create stories or myths to try and explain things that are hard to understand. So this is one of those stories, and it comes from the ancient Egyptians, how evil came into the world. A long, long time ago, before the world we knew even existed, when our planet was mostly covered in water, there was a small little island right in the center. It was a funny little island. It was shaped like a perfect circle, and on it lived 3 funny people. Not funny, haha, but funny, strange, even mysterious. No one really knows where they came from. They didn't know themselves. But What they did know was that they were tired of living on their small circular island. Atum was the oldest, and he had the loudest voice. This voice was important because these strange, mysterious people knew a magic language, and when they told stories, it was magic. In this magic language, the things that they described became so. And so Atum, in his deep and booming voice, told the story about land. He described enormous chunks of land covering the planet. They would all be different shapes and sizes, and some would be rocky, and some would have caves, and some would have pointy mountains, and so. And he created the continents. Shu was the youngest, and she had the most beautiful voice. This was important because when she spoke, Atum had to stop and listen. She decided that Atum had created enough land, but it was boring and old and brown. So she used her magical language and told the story to spruce the world up a bit. She talked about green grass and tall trees and blue lakes and rivers. And she described colorful flowers and fruits. And she told of a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful animals. And so she created the flora and the fauna. But there was still a lot more to create. And Atum and Shu, though, decided to call it a day. They decided that they would come back to this small circular island about once a month to create anything else that they might need. Thrilled with the world that they had created, they ran off to explore it, leaving Min behind. Min did not have the loudest or the most beautiful voice. He was shy, and he spoke quietly and softly. He liked to think, so he spoke slowly. He got nervous, and so sometimes he stumbled over his words. But no matter, he would use their magical language next month and create something of his own. Maybe something that could fly, maybe something with stripes. But month after month passed, and Min never got the chance. Atum and Shu would talk over him, shush him, and finally they told him that he just didn't have what it takes. The magical language wouldn't work for him, they said. He wasn't creative enough. He wasn't loud enough. His words were weak. Angry and hurt, Min decided to tell them a story that they could not ignore, and it was awful. It was an awful thing, filled with chaos and rage and anger, and he described all the bad things that would happen in the world, disease and war and slaughter and mayhem, terrible, terrible things. And when the telling was done, Atum and Shu were scared. They apologized. Your words are not weak. You can help us create if you want, they said. But what you told just now, that was dreadful. It didn't sound good at all. We don't want that in our new world. Take it back. Call your story back. But sadly, it was too late. Already regretting his outburst, Min tried and tried to call back his words, but it didn't work, and he couldn't take it back. For once the story is told, it cannot be called back. Once told, it is set loose into the world. Now, I could tell you what I heard in that story, but I wonder what you heard. And I wonder what stories you will tell to bring beauty and peace and love into this world. And I also wonder, will you listen to the stories of others and the things that others share in the creation of compassion and justice and love.
Our first reading today is by the Reverend Rebecca Parker. What is evil? Evil is that which exploits the lives of some to benefit the lives of others. It chooses ways of living that destroy rather than sustain the delicate web of relationships that make life possible. Evil's accomplice is anesthetization. When the senses have been numbed and feeling has been stifled, responsive reverence is dulled and love has no air to breathe. Evil corrodes our inner lives, manifesting in self-hatred, powerlessness, and fragmentation of the soul. Evil can be neither denied nor destroyed. It is a perennial in the garden. It has to be astutely recognized and unmasked. People of liberal faith might do well to update the ancient understanding of evil. Devouring and destructive power rarely is seen in overt maliciousness or unmasked cruelty. It operates within and behind masks, and its fraud fools even those who wear its mask. Evil is not mysterious, not insignificant, not rare. It is ordinary, life-destroying, and pervasive. Resistance to evil through acts of love and protest is more possible when people ground their lives in more than outrage and grief, in a deep affirmation of life's beauty and in receptivity to grace. Our second reading, A Brave and Startling Truth, is by Maya Angelou. When we come to it, we, this people on this minuscule globe, who reach daily for the bomb, the blade, and the dagger, yet who petition in the dark for tokens of peace. We, this people, on this small and drifting planet, whose hands can strike with such abandon that in a twinkling, life is sapped from the living. Yet those same hands can touch with such healing, irresistible tenderness, that the haughty neck is happy to bow and the proud back is glad to bend. Out of such chaos, of such contradiction, we learn that we are neither devils nor divines. When we come to it, we, this people, on this wayward, floating body, created on this earth, of this earth, have the power to fashion for this earth a climate where every person can live freely without sanctimonious piety, without crippling fear. When we come to it, we must confess that we are the possible. We are the miraculous, the true wonder of this world. That is when, and only when, we come to it.
During my study leave, one of my topics was the Underground Railroad. I visited sites in Ohio and spent time at the Underground Railroad Freedom Center in Cincinnati. When I returned, Kathy and I were talking about possible topics for today's service. When she suggested a theological exploration of evil, I was hesitant. But as I realized in studying the Underground Railroad, Slavery and racism revealed to me that evil is a reality in our world, and Unitarian Universalism hasn't historically had much to say about it. So let's explore it. Why is there evil, and where did it come from? This is a fundamental question that religion has sought to answer through time, and there have been many different answers. Colleen explained the ancient Egyptian legend of the origin of evil. Prehistoric humankind believed the earth, air, sea, and sky were full of spirits. The spirits were good or evil based on what they did to humankind. In the book of Genesis, the first book of the Hebrew Scriptures, the story of evil begins in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve eat from the tree of knowledge and are cast out of the garden to toil and suffer in the world. So this prompts the only limerick I've discovered so far that is safe for church. God's plan in the very beginning was spoiled by original sinning. We trust that the story will end in her glory, but for now, the other side's winning. At a deeper level, this limerick also reveals how some Christian traditions personify evil as the devil, an external force working against God and tempting people to do wrong. In the book of Job in the Hebrew Scriptures, the writer wrestles with why bad things happen to people. God appears to Job and answers questions by saying, "I'm God. I don't owe you an answer. It's the way things are." The Hindus say evil is an aspect of God. Shiva is the creator and the destroyer. Kali Ma creates by destroying. There are demons, but they roar and devour when assigned to do so by the gods. The Buddhist approach to evil is not to deny its existence or merely accept its presence in the world, but to observe carefully, study its nature and causes, and figure out how to eliminate it. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha dictates, never commit evil, but practice good. Our spiritual ancestors, the Puritans, were Calvinists. They believed that humankind is depraved and that evil is our essential nature, that most of us were destined for an eternity in hell. Both the Unitarians and the Universalists rejected this doctrine, instead believing that humankind is essentially good. The Reverend Thomas Starr King, a 19th century minister who held dual standing as both a Unitarian and a Universalist, and is best known for having convinced California to be a free state and not to secede during the Civil War, once remarked about the difference between Universalists and Unitarians. He said that Universalists believed that God was too good to consign them to the fires of hell, and Unitarians believed they were too good to be sent to hell. Onward, upward forever was the Unitarian motto for some of the 20th century because they believed that people were the product of their environment and that evil was simply a character flaw that could be corrected. As for Unitarian Universalism, one of my colleagues suggests that our rationalism has been so infused with the psychological mythologies of our day that demons have turned into conditions or diagnoses, and evil has become maladjustment and bad choices. But Unitarian Universalist theology has begun to mature. Our second source of spiritual wisdom names powers and structures of evil. Modern UU theologians have developed a theology of evil as well as how to respond to it in a religious and spiritual way. Part of this theology is that evil is not out there separate from us. It is not a cosmic battle between supernatural forces where we are just players in something beyond our control. Instead, good and evil are found in every person. As the writer Solzhenitsyn said, the dividing line between good and evil cuts through every human heart. As I've worked on my own theology of evil, which is a recent development for me because I've been too enamored of our theology of love and hope and not eager to take a good hard look at this weakness of Unitarian Universalism, the most meaningful definition of evil I've found is from the Reverend Victoria Safford. Evil is the capacity within us and among us to break sacred bonds with our own souls, with one another, and with the holy. Further, it is the willingness to excuse or justify this damage, to deny it, or to call it virtue. The soil in which it flourishes is a rich compost of ignorance, arrogance, fear, and delusion, mostly self-delusion, all mingled with the sparkling dust of our original human being." End of quote. Evil is not only the capacity to cause harm, it's the ability to justify or excuse it, perhaps even disguising it as virtue or nationalism. It's important, though, to separate evil from simple human failings, the smaller mistakes we made. As my colleague Jude Geiger says, sometimes we're jerks. Sometimes we're short-tempered, flippant, or rude. Sometimes we forget to recycle the soup can. Sometimes we don't tip our waiters. He wrote that, I didn't. Okay, so being a jerk or being flippant has much less of an impact than evil. Others are affected, yes, but the web of life is not torn in the same way it is when people are treated as nothing more than objects, when compassion is not felt or practiced, when there's greed, hate, fear, racism, or envy on a personal scale, and at the systemic level, war, injustice, slavery, genocide, destruction of the earth, anything that prevents life from thriving. All of which and more is happening in our world. Bold headlines announce the newest atrocity constantly, and evil seems to be lurking around every corner. So is church a place where you find solace, comfort, words of hope in these difficult, challenging times? It's okay to say yes. That's one purpose of being a spiritual community. But our faith is meaningless, and Unitarian Universalism is irrelevant if we hide from the reality of evil in the world and we refuse to respond to the call to work for justice, for peace, for equality, for safety, and for fullness of life for every person. In the classic Christian prayer that Jesus taught, there is the line, "Deliver us from evil." Perhaps a better expression would be, as Katie sang in the prelude, "Deliver us to evil." Deliver us from complacency or indifference to evil. Deliver us from a vapid, feel-good, love, peace theology. Deliver us to understanding the presence of evil within ourselves, recognizing, as Maya Angelou says, humans have the power to destroy as well as to heal, and we have the freedom to choose. Give us the strength to see evil, to name it, to work toward lessening it. None of us are naive enough to believe that we can ever eradicate evil in the world. If evil is found in every one of us, well, but we can choose to open our eyes to the humanity present in every human being and to respond with compassion, to use our gifts and passions and the transforming power of love, to commit acts, as Rebecca Parker says, of love and protest, grounded in not just grief and outrage, but also life's beauty and grace. End of quotes. We can find inspiration, wisdom, and courage in the words and deeds of the prophetic people through time, including the many Unitarians, Universalists, and Unitarian Universalists who worked to ease the world's suffering and lessen its evil. Their words, their deeds, their lives challenge us. So I ask, will we answer their challenge with our faith, with our hearts and hands, with our very lives? From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and it is from this we live. Our spiritual community thrives in its shared life of worship, community, and ministry as each of us participates in the circle of giving and receiving. This is possible due to your generous gifts of money, time, and care for each other, and the recognition that we are all truly interconnected. Thank you. We also help others in our community thrive, giving to agencies and organizations in Kent and beyond that serve those in need. Our August special offering is for the Happy Trails Farm Animal Sanctuary. Founded in 1986, this local outreach rescues, rehabilitates, and rehomes criminally abused, neglected, and abandoned farm animals. In the spirit of gratitude for the gift of one another in this community and the abundance that makes our generosity possible, we now give and receive the offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond.
Every day there's a choice, a position to take, to be a witness for good or an agent of greed and hate. No one can serve two masters. Choose this day whom you will serve. They're set before us daily, life or death, blessing or curse. I heard someone singing, you're gonna have to serve something. Will it be evil, or will it be love and peace? I will serve the beautiful. I will nurture compassion, justice and joy. I will cherish the humble, the holy, the true. I will serve the good. Oh, I believe in the beautiful. I will praise the sublime in all that I do. I will look for the light in this world, and I choose to see the good in you. No one can serve two masters. Choose this day whom you will serve. They're set before us daily, love or hate, evil or good. As for me and my house, we will work for justice and peace. We will choose the blessing. We will worship the love that heals. We will serve the beautiful. We will nurture compassion, justice and joy. We will cherish the humble, the holy, the true. We will serve the good. Oh, I believe in the beautiful. I will praise the sublime in all that I do. I will look for the light in this world, and I choose to see the good in you. Oh, I will serve the beautiful. I will praise the sublime in all that I do. I will work for harmony, justice, and love. I will serve the good. I will serve the good. I will serve the good.
And now, as we prepare to return to the world and serve the good, would you join me in extinguishing our chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. May we carry these in our hearts and minds until we are together again. Announcement for you. Next week, in place of a service, we will have an all-congregational workshop with Reverend Sunshine Wolf leading us as we restart our life and work in this time of change and uncertainty, and we figure out how to continue our shared ministry and life together. That'll be 10 a.m. and it'll last until noon. Please show up. This is very important work for us to do together. I have these words from Rebecca Parker. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting, any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger. Any of these can also draw down the prison door, hoard bread, and abandon the poor. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. And now, blessed by this time together, Knowing we have the power within us to curse the world with evil or bless it with good, let us go forth to be a blessing as we continue to inspire love, seek justice, and grow in community. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. And I see the blessing in you.